Hello, everyone. It's Ray, and today I want to talk about Mirror of Malice, which is book one of the Stolen Crowns series. Before I start, I'd like to give a quick disclaimer. I was on the ARC team for this book, however, it does not give me any form of bias. My opinions are mine alone, and I have rated it very honestly. I would also like to mention that I am currently getting over a cold, so if my voice sounds a little funny, that's the reason. The blurb for the book will be on screen for a while, so go ahead and read that if you want to. Apparently, all the books in this series are all standalones, but are interconnected. They are really good fairy tale retellings, this one being both Snow White and Robin Hood, which is a mix of stories I did not know I needed until I read this book. I have to say, the author, Tee Harlowe, is really, really good at writing really pretty scenery. There's this one scene in particular, which was the inspiration for the graphic that I have used for the thumbnail. But I can't really speak about that because it contains my favorite scene and it's kind of a spoiler, so can't really get into that. You guys will just have to read it for yourself to find out. All of the characters in Mirror of Malice are really likable. Even the characters who are not meant to be likable still are slightly. I like when characters have flaws since no one is perfect, and perfect characters actually annoy me most of the time. The flaws that Tee Harlowe gave her characters gave them depth and made the story more enjoyable because it really made the characters more relatable because, again, no one is perfect. Aside from Lilith and Pen, I believe those are how you pronounce the main characters' names. I adored both Shadow and Wayfinder. I really actually would have liked to have seen them more, but I just adored them. Something really, really cool that was included in Mirror of Malice was a map of the world that the story takes place in, and that map can be found at the beginning of the book. I really, 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 really love when books include maps because it helps me visualize like what the places look like, and also when characters are traveling, how the terrain would look. It also helps me visualize like how long it would take for characters to get to said other place because it shows how far apart all of the places are. Because this book is a slow burn, I was a little bit worried about the pacing, but honestly, the pacing was perfect. Everything made a lot of sense. It wasn't too slow, it wasn't too fast, especially not with development of the relationship, which was interesting to read considering it was a enemies to lovers, which I've actually noticed I really like that trope. It has taken me a really long time to figure that out, but it's a really good trope. It's fun. Um, and it being a fantasy romance, I don't usually read a lot of fantasy romances just because I have a hard time getting into them most of the time. But this one was plenty interesting, partly because of the really good chemistry between characters and also the banter. The banter was amazing. And also it being, an only one bed trope, I adored it. It was very inventive how that trope was used, and I had a good time reading it. It was really fun. I will say the ending, without spoiling too much, was very satisfying and wrapped everything up nicely to where it didn't feel like, oh, there's a cliffhanger and what happened here? What's gonna happen next? And yeah, I'm actually really, really, really looking forward to seeing what other fairy tales will be retold in the next books. All right, so conclusion time. This book is a well written fantasy romance retelling of Snow White and Robin Hood, with the tropes being used of enemies to lovers and there was only one bed. I gave it a 4.25 stars, and as you can see on the screen now, my Spice rating system, it gets a 2.6 on my scale. I would definitely recommend this book to anyone who just loves fantasy romance, loves fairy tales, loves enemies to lovers, And definitely, if you like stories with banter, I would definitely recommend that. So that is all for today. As always, the links to my Instagram, Goodreads, TikTok, and Storygraph accounts are in the description if you want to check those out. All right, well, until next time, happy reading, everyone. Bye-bye.